There are 5 things happening inside your brain right now that your doctor has almost certainly never fully explained to you. Not because they do not know, but because these changes are considered a normal part of aging. Most physicians mention them briefly, hand you a pamphlet about staying active, and move on to the next patient. What they are not telling you is what these changes actually mean for your memory and what the latest neuroscience says you can do to slow every single one of them down. Because here's what the research now makes clear. These changes are not fixed. They are not a sentence. Every one of them is genuinely, measurably modifiable. Today, I am walking you through all 5. What is happening, why it matters, and what you can do about it. Stay until number 5, because that one will change how you think about your emotions for the rest of your life. If you are over 60 and serious about protecting your memory, subscribe for more tips. Let us get into it. 1. Your brain is physically shrinking. Starting in your 40s and accelerating significantly after 60, the human brain loses approximately 5% of its volume per decade. On a brain scan, the difference is visible. This is not metaphor. This is measurable anatomy. The region that shrinks fastest is the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain directly behind your forehead, responsible for planning, decision-making, and what neuroscientists call executive function. The ability to hold multiple pieces of information in your mind at once, to organize your thoughts, to follow a complex sequence of steps. This is why many people over 60 notice that certain kinds of thinking feel slower. The deep knowledge stays intact, but the quick, nimble cognitive agility of your 40s now requires more effort. That is the prefrontal cortex shrinking. The hippocampus, your memory center, also shrinks at roughly 1 to 2% per year after 60 in people who are not actively protecting it. As it reduces, forming new memories becomes harder. Names, recent events, where you put things, all hippocampal tasks. Here is what your doctor did not tell you. A landmark study from the University of British Columbia found that regular aerobic exercise increased hippocampal volume by 2% in adults over 60 in just 6 months. 2% growth at an age when most people are losing 1 to 2% per year. Exercise is not just good for your heart, it is literally growing your brain back. What you can do. 30 minutes of any exercise that raises your heart rate 5 days a week. Walking, cycling, swimming. It does not matter. Elevated heart rate, consistent days. Within 6 months, your hippocampus can be measurably larger than it is today. 2. Your deep sleep has almost disappeared. In your 20s and 30s, roughly 20% of your total sleep time was spent in slow-wave sleep, deep sleep. This is where the brain consolidates memories formed during the day into long-term storage, where the glymphatic system does its deepest cleaning, clearing the toxic proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease, where the most critical cellular repair happens. By the time you turn 60, that 20% has dropped to between 5 and 7%. By 70, many adults have almost none at all. That is not insomnia. You are falling asleep. You are spending hours in bed. But the architecture of that sleep, the proportion spent in its deepest, most restorative stage, has fundamentally changed. A study from UC Berkeley found that the amount of deep sleep a person gets in their 60s is one of the strongest predictors of amyloid accumulation in their brain 10 years later. Less deep sleep now. more amyloid later. One of the most direct links between a sleep change and Alzheimer's risk that science has identified. And almost nobody mentions this. Not even one glass of alcohol in the evening, which feels relaxing, measurably suppresses slow-wave sleep in older adults. Every single night. What you can do. 4 things that measurably restore deep sleep architecture. Keep your sleep and wake times absolutely consistent, even on weekends. Step outside within 30 minutes of waking for natural morning light. This resets the circadian rhythm that governs your sleep cycles. Cool your bedroom to 16 to 19 degrees, as we have discussed before. And remove alcohol from your evenings entirely. Not occasionally, entirely. Your deep sleep will begin improving within the first week. 3. Your brain's noise filter is breaking down. Have you noticed it is harder to concentrate when there is background noise? That other people's conversations distract you more than they used to? That following one thread of thought while other things compete for your attention takes more effort than it once did. You have probably assumed it is a lack of discipline, a general slowing down, a personal failing. It is none of those things. It is your thalamus. The thalamus is your brain's sensory gatekeeper. Every piece of incoming information, from your eyes, your ears, your body, passes through the thalamus before reaching conscious awareness. And one of its most critical jobs is filtering, deciding what is signal and what is noise, what deserves your attention, and what should be suppressed before it reaches you. After 60, the thalamus loses efficiency. More irrelevant information gets through. The brain is now processing noise alongside signal, requiring significantly more cognitive effort to stay focused. This is not weakness. It is a documented structural change. A 2019 study from Johns Hopkins found that thalamic volume reduction in adults over 60 directly correlated with sustained attention performance. The smaller the thalamus, the harder focused attention becomes. But the thalamus responds remarkably well to a specific type of training. Focused attention meditation, where you deliberately bring your wandering mind back to a single point of focus, has been shown to increase thalamic gray matter density and improve filtering function in older adults within 8 weeks of regular practice. What you can do. 10 minutes every morning. Sit quietly. Focus on your breath. Every time your mind wanders, and it will, gently bring it back. That moment of returning is the exercise. The wandering is not failure. The return is the training. 8 weeks. Your brain's noise filter measurably improves. 4. Your dopamine system is quietly depleting. Most people think of dopamine as the pleasure chemical, the reward hit. What they are never told is that dopamine is also the brain's primary memory formation signal. When dopamine is released in the hippocampus, it tells the brain, "This is important. Record this. Remember this." Without adequate dopamine, new information enters the brain but does not stick. It slides off rather than anchoring. And here is the number almost no doctor shares. Dopamine receptor density decreases by approximately 10% per decade beginning in your 40s. By your late 60s, you have lost roughly 30% of the dopamine receptor density you had at 40. This is one of the primary neurological mechanisms behind changes most people simply attribute to getting old. Reduced motivation to try new things. Preference for familiar routines. The feeling that learning something new takes more effort. These are not personality changes. They are the downstream effects of a depleting dopamine system. A 2020 study from the Karolinska Institute found that adults over 60 who regularly sought out novel experiences showed significantly higher dopamine receptor density than age-matched adults in routine lifestyles. Novelty is dopamine fuel. The brain releases dopamine in anticipation of new experiences. Seeking newness is not just enjoyable, it is biologically restorative. What you can do: one new thing every week, a different route, a food you have never eaten, the first 5 words of a language you do not speak, a new skill, any skill. The brain does not care whether the novelty is grand or humble. It releases dopamine either way. And every dopamine release is an act of brain maintenance. 5. Your brain is becoming more emotional and less rational. Between your prefrontal cortex, rational, planning, impulse controlling, and your amygdala, emotional, threat detecting, reactive, there is a communication pathway called the prefrontal amygdala circuit. Think of it as your brain's emotional regulation highway. In a younger brain, this circuit is strong. The prefrontal cortex can calm the amygdala when it overreacts. Apply reason to emotion. Regulate the response. After 60, this circuit weakens. The prefrontal cortex, already shrinking as we discussed, loses some of its ability to regulate the amygdala. Emotional responses can feel more intense, more persistent, harder to reason yourself out of. This is why many women over 60 notice they feel things more deeply than they used to. That criticism stings longer. That worry is harder to dismiss. That emotional memories feel more vivid than factual ones. These are not signs of fragility. They are signs of a well-documented neurological shift. A 2021 study from Stanford's Center on Longevity found something remarkable. While older adults show increased amygdala reactivity, they simultaneously demonstrate what researchers called the positivity effect. When given control over what they pay attention to, older adults preferentially direct their attention toward positive and meaningful experiences with significantly greater consistency than younger adults. The emotional sensitivity of the aging brain is not purely a deficit. It is also a deepening. The same changes that make criticism sting more also make love feel richer, gratitude feel more genuine, and meaningful moments more profoundly felt. You are not becoming less. You are becoming more sensitively tuned. What you can do: stop interpreting your emotional intensity as weakness. It is biology. When a strong emotion arises, pause 30 seconds before responding. Name the emotion specifically. Naming activates the prefrontal cortex and measurably reduces amygdala activation within seconds. And deliberately curate positive experiences. Your aging brain is wired to hold on to them. Give it something worth holding. 5 things happening in your brain right now that most doctors never fully explain. None of this is your fault, and none of it is a life sentence. Subscribe now as we create brain health videos made specifically for women over 60 who refuse to let their minds slow down. Leave a comment. Which of these 5 surprised you the most? I will see you at the next video.